let's talk about what USC brings to the table in addition to the guys that I mentioned. So, number of things to be on the lookout for if you're watching this game, and I'm sure the Oregon coaching staff has seen all this stuff. One of the things that can really flip the game, and actually in their best road win of the year, maybe of Lincoln Riley's tenure since he's been at USC, the road games, a little bit like Jed Fish at Washington, have been a struggle. The trick plays can lead to explosives, and that has been something they've used for quite a while. Lincoln Riley has always been a very clever and creative play caller. They flipped the Nebraska game on the road in an incredible environment against a good, not great, but good Nebraska team. They might have lost that game if Dylan Raiola, Nebraska's quarterback, hadn't gotten hurt. But USC's offense made the go-ahead drive in the fourth quarter to go up 21-17, and they were able to hold that total. They did so with a trick play that just doesn't look like your traditional ones. You know, you think trick plays, maybe your mind goes, as mine often does, to Josh McDaniels and the Patriots. And the number of times they'll do a double pass, an end around flea flicker shot down the field, or a tight end wheel, something like that. 2 or 3 times this year. I think USC ran one against Illinois, and it got called back because of a penalty. They'll hand the ball off. They'll slide the offensive line to the left. They do this into the right side of the boundary. The running back cuts back. A receiver who went in motion blocks down, and then the running back veers to the other direction and pitches it back to the quarterback to throw it down the field. That was the big play that set up USC's drive at Nebraska for a go-ahead touchdown. Whether it's in the fourth quarter of a close game or early on, USC, I guarantee you, is going to try, or at least will be looking to try and dial up something like that. So something that's going to be important in this game for both the secondary, but especially the linebackers too. Linebackers more consistently, secondary on the trick plays, is eye discipline. Lincoln Riley will use plenty of motions. He is a creative play caller. He'll give you all sorts of different looks. He'll use guys in very creative ways to get his guys the football. And with the linebackers for Oregon in this game, I think we all agree that it's the third of Oregon's 3 defensive units in terms of the best one. And I think they've played better in the last couple of weeks. If King Miller runs wild in this game, he's not a super big back. He's a little bit more of a scat back that, you know, runs between the tackles out of necessity. I think he's kind of like this is an all too perfect example in a way. It's like a poor man's DeAnthony Thomas. Nobody is as athletic as DeAnthony was. He could run between the tackles. He's not going to run you over. He's not built like Jordan Davison. He's not even as big or as imposing of a runner, which has never been the way Lincoln Riley's run the ball anyway. He hasn't used those kind of backs that often. He's not a Jordan Davison. He's not even as physical as Noah Whittington or probably even D.R. Hill. He's incredibly capable, but I think between the counter run game and the way that Lincoln Riley will sporadically use his tight ends, Lake McCree is their leading receiver at tight end, I think eye discipline and just knowing your assignment, executing it for linebackers is going to be a really, really big part of this game. Because he will use those in certain spots. Like down in the red zone, for instance, I don't think between the 20s you'll see a little, but you won't see a ton of plays designed to the tight end. All of a sudden in the red zone, you'll see some RPOs, some slide concepts, hiding guys behind the line of scrimmage. They'll do all that sort of stuff. And I think that for Oregon's linebackers, they have to be able to maintain their eye discipline and not let a guy run free. Iowa beat them with that a couple of times in Iowa City. So that's those are the first couple of things that stand out. Another thing to note in this game, USC is more than capable of coming back from an early lead. So a number of times this year, I've highlighted a key to the game being scoring early, get out to the big lead. It's not that that isn't important or good. It's just not one of my top keys in this game because I don't think that's fundamentally how you're going to beat USC. Because I've said that against teams that if you score early, you're going to take them out of their game plan and they don't have the personnel to go up and down the field a bunch. Teams like Minnesota or Oklahoma State or the Beavs, Northwestern fits that category as well. That's not USC. They came back down 14 twice against Iowa last week in Los Angeles in the rain. They came back from down, I don't think they ever got down double digits, but they were down 8 late in the third quarter against Nebraska on the road. with their explosive pass game and the way that King Miller's got breakaway speed. He's an explosive runner. If he is able to have those sorts of runs and USC is really balanced, they can score in a hurry. They'll play with tempo from time to time, but they can just create chunk passing plays in a lot of different ways. So if Oregon gets an early lead, of course, that's what we'd all like to see. That's great. The game is not going to be over just because Oregon's up 21-6. Heck, you go back to 2023 and Oregon had a 3-possession lead in the fourth quarter, and USC was going for 2 down by 9, which they were, of course, going to need anyway. But they were doing that to get it to be a 1-possession game, and then Oregon had to get a fourth down conversion to get a first down in order to ice the clock and run it out. So I don't think that just because Oregon gets an early lead, you're going to necessarily. I mean, obviously the Ducks can pull away, as I've talked about. I think they have that ability if defensively they can be disruptive with their defensive line, and if offensively they have those explosive runs between the tackles. Yeah, I think Oregon can absolutely win and cover that 9.5-point spread. But just because Oregon's up 21-6, I wouldn't sit there and get comfortable. I will not be comfortable just because that's the case, because USC is more than capable of coming back. Another thing to watch for in this game that's going to be a really fun chess match and matchup, when USC, especially in the red zone, needs a play, like a 3rd and goal maybe, they're probably throwing a fade to Jacoby Lane. He's a big-bodied receiver that is really good in contested catches. I wonder how often he gets matched up with Brandon Finney, because if I'm Lincoln Riley, I don't want to throw at him whatsoever. The other corner spot, the rotation of Ife Obadegwu and Theron Johnson, they've both been up and down. They've had some really good moments. They've had some really not as good moments. Brandon Finney barely has not as good moments. So if I'm Lincoln Riley saying, hey, it's 3rd and goal from the 4, and we're going to go with a fade, think back to the Stanford teams under David Shaw and Jim Harbaugh and the way they just throw it up to the tight end. That's what USC will do. They did it a couple years ago when they came to Autzen. That is going to be a part of USC's game plan. I just wouldn't throw it at Brandon Finney. Minnesota tried that, and how'd it go? I think he gave up 2 catches for 20 yards, and that was like the worst performance Brandon Finney's had all year. Guy is so incredibly good. So they will scheme that up. Also, if you pressure Jaden Maiava, he's pretty elusive in the pocket. Situational quarterback runs are something that USC brings to the table. It's not a feature. It's not unlike what Oregon does with Dante Moore. It'll be in a couple of spots every now and then just to keep you honest. He'll scramble from time to time. Both these quarterbacks want to sit in the pocket and throw. I think there are a lot of similarities. Dante is the more talented of the two. Maiava is incredibly good, has been really productive this year and good in the Lincoln Riley offense. But when he gets under pressure, his default is a pretty good default. It's the old Kirk Cousins meme, which is, F it, Justin Jefferson is down there somewhere. Well, he can say, screw it. Jacoby Lane or Mekhi Lemon's down there somewhere, and those guys can make incredible catches. So he's not super easy to bring down. He's a pretty big guy. Jaden Maiava is in the pocket, and if he is under duress, he is just going to chuck it up for a 50-50 ball, which can result in a contested catch or a defensive pass interference. He's going to try to get those at some point in time. Last thing here, and this is, always just such a fun debate or discussion with Oregon fans, but be ready for some creative and often effective screen passes from Lincoln Riley. And that might drive some Oregon fans insane, because the perception is that Oregon is not a good screen team. I think Oregon is a solid screen team, but that always, it goes down its own particular mental rabbit hole there. But Lincoln Riley is really good at it. And whether it's to running backs, receivers, or tight ends, they will do all three. Oregon has to be ready for that. And they struggled with it against Minnesota. I guarantee you Lincoln Riley will try to do something like what Minnesota did twice for a first down last week, which was kind of that delayed halfback angle screen. Oregon went 0 for 2 defending it against Minnesota. I bet he tries to get one of those to King Miller or Mekhi Lemon, who plays all over the field. He'll be in the backfield, punt return, all that stuff. So that's USC on film and everything that Oregon's going to have to try and prepare for this week. Oregon coaching staff has definitely got their hands full. Up front, I think Oregon has the advantage. If this gets played on the perimeter, I think that more leans towards USC's advantage. Not that I feel like Oregon's at a huge disadvantage there. I'm just saying if I'm USC, I don't want to play this game between the tackles. I want to play it on the perimeter.